another video I've been putting off. I am the world's worst procrastinator, or the world's best because I do put things off. But I'm going to do a review or a comparison today of these two palettes. This is the Naked 3 from Urban Decay, and this one is the Iconic 3 from Makeup Revolution, which you may have heard of. It's basically the new MUA on the block. I've heard whispers that it's the same guy that's behind MUA that's behind this one. The price points are very similar, starting from £1, the palettes are £4, so it's basically the same thing. And the quality is very, very similar. But I think the Revolution just slightly edges out MUA, and they do have some of the different products. You know, it's not kind of a carbon copy. You definitely might look to each brand for different things. So if you kind of are sold on MUA and you think, oh, I don't need exactly the same thing from a different brand, it's not exactly the same. There are different products that you can buy from each. And so far, I'm really enjoying the eyeshadows from Revolution. So I definitely would recommend that you give them a go, especially for £4 each. But this is basically a dupe for the Naked 3. This is the one that people have been talking about, and I don't believe, I mean, I know that they did do a palette, I forget what it was called, Edgy or something like that, for their newer line MUA that people said was a dupe, but it wasn't really a dupe. It was rosy toned, but it wasn't a dupe shade by shade, and this really, really is. I'll show you them next to each other. I have some proper swatches on my blog, but I will try to do some swatches throughout this video. Don't know why I decided to wear a long sleeve dress whilst I was filming this, but I've already been to work, so you know, I didn't dress up just for this video. So I'm going to go through all of them, tell you what I think of them. I am wearing them on my eyes today. I have to say that the Naked 3, I absolutely loved it when it first came out. The quality from Urban Decay for me is like the best. It doesn't matter where I try anything from. It doesn't matter if it's more expensive, less expensive. I've never tried anything of any price point that is better than Urban Decay for me. I know that some people say that the MUA ones are better or just as good. They're very, very, very good, and I think they're some of the best eyeshadows that you can buy from the drugstore, and even at all. I mean, there's this thing from like Bobbi Brown and MAC that I've tried and I've just not been impressed with at all, and I'd say the MUA ones are better than those individual shadows that I wasn't impressed with from those higher end brands. But on the whole, I love Urban Decay, and I can't tell you that this is better, but I can tell you that it's very, very, very good. And given that, although I love this initially, I hardly ever wear it, I would be more than happy to kind of get this lower end dupe. The original Naked palette for me is completely worth the money because I use it a lot more than any of my other palettes. But the Naked 3 was kind of one of those things that I thought I was going to use all the time, and it turns out that the pinky tones don't suit me, and they don't suit a lot of people. It's quite difficult to pull off, I think. I think that some of the shades are beautiful, but some of them really are quite difficult to wear. The overall shade range is quite muddy, or can create quite a muddy look because there's not a lot of contrast. There's just a lot of, it's like much of a mushness, really. It really is, there's not a lot of difference in tones, and so there's lots of reasons why I haven't used it as much as I thought I was going to, because I absolutely loved it and it's so beautiful. But because I haven't used it, I would definitely recommend that you give this one a go over that one, because I just think that the rosy tones are a little bit more difficult to pull off, and so you might not use it as often. But anyway, that's my little kind of comparison with the Urban Decay, just from my perspective, because I don't want to go out and tell you, you know, they're better quality. You might think they're better for you, but I personally think that Urban Decay can't be beat. So anyway, we'll do some swatches, and you can see how they stand up against each other. The Makeup Revolution palette doesn't actually have shade names, so I'll just go through the shade names in the Naked palette, or Naked 3 palette, and I'll then do the comparison swatch from Revolution side by side. So first of all, we have Strange, which is this kind of creamy matte colour. And then we have Dust, which I actually put on the inner corners of my eyes today and was a massive mistake. Not one I would use, even from the higher end one. I'm not a big fan of like glittery fallout. Then we have Burnout, which is just a very kind of neutral. I know they're all neutrals. Another matte, we have Limit, one of my favourites. Then we've got Buzz. Trick is another one that's full of glitter that I would not reach for as often. Nuna, another matte, and another one that I think that Revolution have done really well. Mattes are really difficult to formulate, and for a £4 palette, the mattes are fantastic. Then there's Liar. Factory, which is probably, I would say Smog, which is my all-time favourite eyeshadow, is somewhere between Liar and Factory. And even Mugshot, the next one, they're all kind of very, very similar. But yeah, Liar, Factory and Mugshot are kind of my favourites from the palette, I would say. And then we've got Dark Side, which is just a very, very deep brown, almost black. And Black Heart, which is this deep, deep black with red running through it, which again, I don't think they've matched it perfectly, but they've done a pretty good job. So yeah, overall, very, very nice, and I would say that the comparison between the two is very, very good for the difference in price. As far as packaging is concerned, there's a definite divide here, but this is like £35 cheaper, maybe 34. I think this is £37 now, and this is £4. Yeah, I mean, you're paying for the brand and you're paying for the packaging. It's very nice packaging. I like the tin. It's got a very handy mirror, which I use all the time, and it feels very, very secure, whereas this is more flimsy. But I do think that it's sleeker and nicer looking than anything else that I've got for the same kind of money at the drugstore. I think that MUA, for me, always looked cheap. It's not an issue, it is cheap. If it does the job, who cares? But if you're looking for slightly nicer packaging, I think that they've presented it in the same way that Urban Decay have presented their Naked palettes. They've tried to make it as similar as possible while still keeping their kind of slightly different edge of the black packaging, because it's obviously a cheaper thing to manufacture. But I just think that they've done a really good job of presenting everything, and everything looks a little bit nicer. So yeah, I'm really impressed with it. Obviously the Naked palette comes with a brush, which I'm not a big fan of anyway, I don't really care about that. And the Revolution one comes with a sponge applicator, which I will never use. But yeah, if you compare the two side by side, money-wise, just purely because I don't use this much, I would definitely suggest you give this a go. If you're thinking about maybe getting the Naked 3 palette, if you didn't rush out and get it at Christmas time like I did, I would definitely recommend that you try this one. But that's it for today's video, and if you would like to check out my blog, there will be lots of swatches and more information there. And if you want any more information, if you've got any questions, leave me a comment below and I will try to respond to as many of you as possible. And I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye!